correctly. So, well, great. Good to kind of see everybody again. Welcome back. And our next agency program director is April Richards, and she is the program manager for the EPA's Small Business Innovation Research Program. And probably no surprise to you, the EPA's SBIR program focuses on developing and commercializing the protection of human health and the environment. Focus has been of recent vintage air, climate, water, green manufacturing, and homeland security, if I read that correctly. Great honor to introduce you to April Richards again, and she has worked as a fellow on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, where she provided technical expertise on environmental issues. She's a professional engineer, also worked 5 years in private industry with environmental engineering consulting firm in Florida. She has a master's degree in civil and environmental engineering. And April, I'm sure I've forgotten lots of things, but welcome, April, and I'll hand the baton over to you and look forward to hearing your talk.
Great, thanks for having me. So I do have some slides, so fine if I go ahead and share my screen.
Absolutely, April.
Okay. And is that coming up okay?
Terrific. We can see it.
Is it in presentation mode or is it?
No, it is not. So you need to click on presentation. Yeah, I see your cursor there. So.
Okay, I tried that again.
There you go. Now you're cooking.
Perfect, great. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Martin and Misty, for having me. This is a great event that you guys pull together with all of these different agencies. It's a great resource for your attendees. And we're always happy to get the word out. So thanks for having us. So again, my name is April Richards. I am the program manager for EPA's Small Business Innovation Research Environmental Protection Agency. And I know you've heard a lot about the federal SBIR program, but I always just use these slides just for a little context and to kind of give my take on the larger program. You know, the intent really is that it's a set aside for small businesses to get a little bit of the R&D investment from the federal government. I mean, a lot of it goes to academic institutions, and this is a way to really get some of that to the small business community. You have innovative, nimble community, and they can really help us address some of our important federal needs. So anyway, it is intended to go to this cohort. Of course, it's designed to promote commercialization, right? Like that makes it different than other academic research programs. We really want a viable product that has commercial potential. We want you to sell it and make money or license it or spin it off or something, but we want you to be profitable. And so it's a really distinct program in that way. So agencies that have a certain amount of money will put some of that money aside for SBIR, and that's 3.2% of agencies' budget. And of course, for some agencies, it's huge. And for others like us, and maybe as Ed was mentioning, education, it's a little bit smaller. But across the federal government, it's really large. It's $3.2 billion in all 11 agencies. So, you know, it's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back. It's non-dilutive. We don't take your IP. So it really is a good funding source for you. And you're smart to be looking at where you could possibly fit in. The program is administered by the Small Business Administration, SBA, and that is the website that they host right there, sbir.gov. Lots of great resources there, which I'll mention in a minute. Here's the pie chart of the 11 agencies. It's changed slightly recently, but you can see who the big players are, right? Like defense obviously has a huge chunk of the pie. Health and Human Services, that includes National Institutes of Health. Energy, NASA, National Science Foundation also have robust 100 million plus programs. And then the rest of us get to share that last piece of the pie. So important, but certainly smaller SBIR programs. Okay, so let's talk about EPA, near and dear to my heart. So I love the mission of EPA. It's to protect human health and the environment. It's short and sweet and makes lots of sense. And I think most people can agree on how important that is. And so each agency gets to use the SBIR program to meet their mission. So we're looking to support the development and commercialization of technologies that will do just that, that will protect human health and the environment. And like the other agencies, we have a phased approach, right? So phase 1 is proof of concept. And the philosophy there is plant a lot of seeds, get a lot of good ideas, sort of a small investment, short amount of time. Can you prove out that idea? And then if successful in your phase 1, you can apply for phase 2. And that's a longer term, really trying to get you towards development and commercialization. And that is for 2 years. So again, you can see EPA is a much smaller SBIR program. So we have $100,000 for phase 1, $400,000 for phase 2. We do award everything as contracts, firm fixed price contracts. And then we do have a supplement in phase 2. If you can bring in some third-party investment, we're really encouraging you to do that. We think to really be successful and commercialize, you're really going to need to find those third parties that are willing to demonstrate or buy or whatever way they're willing to help you commercialize your technology. And we can add another $100,000 to your phase 2. And I will say, I only have my laptop, so I don't see the chat or anything. So if there's ever questions or any reason to stop me, please, if someone wants to speak up, that's great.
I'm keeping an eye on that for you, April.
Okay, appreciate it. So again, what makes EPA's SBIR program special? Again, we are one of the smaller programs. You know, it's good and bad. I wish we had more money. We have to save the planet on about $5 million per year. But with that, with the smaller program comes a little bit more of an individualized program. We really get to know the awardees. We will provide all the companies that we fund with an EPA technical connection. So if it is something that could be a good resource for your company, if you have an air monitor, we can hook you up with our labs in RTP, North Carolina. If you have a water treatment technology, we have the Office of Water and headquarters. So anyway, there's a lot of resources there that could be, you know, non-financial, but an expertise perspective from EPA. We really do focus on commercialization, and we are offering that TABA support in both phase 1 and phase 2. We work hard to communicate successful projects. We do a lot of social media. We have blogs, we have newsletters, but I do think that's part of the cycle of success is getting the word out. And of course, as I mentioned, we're helping to protect the planet. So that is pretty significant. And so I think you've been hearing from some smaller agencies today, but the way the smaller agencies typically work is they release one solicitation per year. We just don't have the bandwidth or the funding to do more than that. So we do one per year. And right now, timing wise, we're just kind of closed our last solicitation and we're literally reviewing proposals now. So our next solicitation will come out in June of 2021. And really, again, timing wise, the best thing, if you have any interest in the topics that I'm going to talk about in a minute, if you want to subscribe to our listserv, that is the best way to know as soon as the solicitation opens, what the topics will be. And we won't spam you too much, but we will give you some environmental technology updates during the year. And then you will know as soon as the solicitation is open. So let me talk a little bit about the topic areas, because this is, I think, this is the hook for my program. If you do have a technology in one of these areas, even though our funding is pretty small, we try to limit the topic areas enough so that our success rate is pretty high. And it does vary from year to year, but we have tried to fund about 15% of proposals. We got a lot of proposals this year, so that rate might go down a little bit, but it has also been higher in the past. So it just kind of depends. So our broad topic areas align with the organization of EPA, in case anyone knows how we're organized, but we love media. So we're organized by, we have a water office, an air office, a land office. We do some homeland security work. EPA has responsibility for both water security and for some emergency response in like a terrorist event. And then we have materials, kind of aligns with our land office. So thinking about entire life cycle of materials, and then safer chemicals. So those are our broad topic areas. Those largely stay the same from year to year. And then under those, we develop specific priority subtopics every year that do change from year to year. And just as an example, I'll show you. So these are the topics that were in the solicitation that just closed a while ago, but they give you a good idea of the type of things we're looking for. And sometimes we do repeat these, so it's possible that you'll see one of these again next year. But so for example, under clean and safe water, we had 2 broad topics in water reuse, one for monitoring and one for treatment. So really looking at, expanding the technology breadth in that area to help with water quantity issues. For air quality, we had a couple monitoring topics, one for ethylene oxide, one for VOCs. So these are important areas for EPA. We also had a radon mitigation topic. Under the land topic, we looked at PFAS, which are these perfluorinated chemicals, which are really tricky to treat and remove and destroy. And we're looking at getting rid of those. Homeland security, we had a pretty timely topic on long-term disinfectant coatings, virucidal coatings to be exact. For materials, we had several topics this year. We had one focused on food waste. We had one focused on recycling, a very broad topic on recycling. We had one looking at new applications for what would be waste materials. And then we had one for deconstruction of building materials. So again, kind of you can see sort of looking, all of these topics are looking at the life cycle. Where do source materials come from? What's the toxicity? What's the water use? What's the energy use? What happens at end of life? Is it recyclable, compostable, biodegradable? That's really kind of our shtick about topics, about thinking about the life cycle impacts, environmental impacts of these technologies. Okay, so I digress. Last topic, safer chemicals. We had some, to me, very interesting topics this year. Methodologies to reduce animal testing, a really important area. And then a prevention topic, looking at better manufacturing processes for coloration techniques, so dyes and inks and those kinds of things. So all that said, those were last year's topics. They're just for guidance. You may see some of them again, but that's the kind of specificity you would expect to see in our topics. And we'll release the new topics. We usually release them prior to the opening of the solicitation, so you have some time to digest them. So probably May or early June of 2021. And for a proposal, I won't get too much into the nitty gritty because since the solicitation isn't open and it's going to be a while, but just so you know, when we do evaluate proposals, we're looking at both commercial and technical merit. And our current sort of high level commercial criteria include, what is the innovation and do you have IP protection, or have you thought about how you will protect your intellectual property? What's the opportunity for the market? Does someone really want to buy this, and what does that look like? How does your team fare commercially? Do you have the expertise to take this to market? And then the commercial approach. What's your business plan? How are you going to get this out there and sold? And then for technical criteria, we're looking at your technical approach. What will you do in phase 1? How will you prove it out? What's your company team look like technically? And then we really want this proposal to be relevant to that topic. So if you're applying to the reuse topic, like how much impact will it have in that area? How will it move that technology area forward and really be exciting for EPA people to see the environmental benefit? So, excuse me for just a second, talking a lot, but I do, since EPA has kind of a small budget, and I do feel like there's such a breadth of different technologies that we need to protect our planet, I always like do a little advertisement for other agencies that fund environmental topics. National Science Foundation has a very broad umbrella of topics. They'll say they're topic agnostic, so often fund environmental topics. National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, which is part of NIH, they have a program focused just on site cleanup and monitoring. So if you have some kind of like cleanup technology, that could be a good place to look. Department of Energy obviously focuses on energy, but they do a lot with water, the water energy nexus. So a lot of things that have environmental implications. Agriculture has a lot of overlap, soil quality, farming, water quality, those kind of issues. And then NOAA. I think of them for a lot more monitoring climate issues. So anyway, just some other places to think if for any reason you don't see a fit with our topics and our smallish budget, there's lots of other resources out there potentially. All right, I'm just going to give a couple of our success stories, and we looked out west to some of our favorite California companies, which is not hard because we do get a great response from California. Microvi, they developed an innovative process focused on wastewater that uses microorganisms to both recover nutrients and treat wastewater. So we love that. We're getting the treatment of the water that we need, but we're also recovering something of value from what would have been considered a waste. So that's kind of exciting for us at EPA. They're looking at energy as well as cost. They've got some third-party investment. And interestingly, they've got that third-party investment from international water companies, mostly in Europe, often a little more progressive in water treatment approaches. And they won a nice award earlier this year from the Water Scottish region. Another California company, a little bit different angle, Industrial Microbes. They've engineered a microbe that consumes CO2 and methane. So that is great for multiple reasons. Those are obviously important greenhouse gases. Again, taking a waste and making something useful, in this case, producing a chemical that could be used to make different materials. The process emits less carbon dioxide. They have also received outside funding, which is great, and also won a nice award or mention earlier this year in the Next 50 Companies to Disrupt the World. So we're excited about those two projects, and they've both already demonstrated significant commercial success. And I just thought I'd mention, you might be saturated by now with SBIR information, but there is a lot to navigate. There's so many agencies, there's so many topics, there's so many. But the SBA puts on this virtual road tour every year, and it used to be literally like program managers getting in a bus. Now it's virtual. So I do think if you wanted to attend either of these, and like there's some general plenary sessions, and then you get chances to meet one-on-one with program managers. And again, you're sort of getting that opportunity here, but if there's anything that you missed or you need more, I do think this is a great way to learn about the SBIR program. And there's some more information there on how to sign up and what the dates will be. Some of my information, there's my email, which is definitely the best way to get in touch with me. Our website, again, the listserv, which I think is my best recommendation right now. If you have any technology in the water, air, materials, chemicals space that I mentioned, that's a great place to sign up. And then we'll just hit you with a few emails a year, including the topics when they come out. And the SBA's website, that sbir.gov, I think that is a great resource. It's got, you can do a search on any topic. You can see all of the awards funded by all 11 agencies and sub-agencies. There's loads of state resources on there. There's tutorials on all different parts of the program. So a lot of resources on that website. You have to kind of play around with it. And I think that is it for me. I will pop out of my full screen here so I can see what else is going on. Actually, I think I'll just stop sharing.
Fantastic. April, thank you very much indeed for that valuable information indeed. So I've got a bunch of questions, but let me flip over to Doton first, April. And so I hope I do this correctly for you, Doton. So his company supplies chemicals, but he's interested in a grant that would develop a safe pesticide for food. And anyway, is that an area that the EPA may consider, or is there another agency, April, that might be more of a fit for safe pesticides that's safe for food?
Sure. It does sound like something we would be interested in. Again, it just kind of depends. Like, we'll release the topics next year and we'll start developing those now. So I don't know exactly what our subtopics will be right now, but certainly you can reach out to me probably like in the beginning of next year is better, when I have a little better idea of what the topics would be, and I can talk you through whether I think it's a fit. Certainly if it's pesticides, I would already think of Department of Agriculture as well as an option. So you might want to figure out a contact there and reach out to them as well. But and one thing I like people when they reach out, and then sometimes if you just send me like a short overview of the topic, that way I can kind of familiarize myself with it. I don't want a huge tome because I get a ton of them, but it is nice to have a little bit like, this is the technology, this is where I think the impacts are, this is who would use it, something like that. And then we can have a discussion and I can be like, well, it's kind of a stretch for our topics, or no, that's perfect, or whatever. So.
Great. Thanks, April. So Ed had a question with regard to the recently closed solicitation, anticipated turnaround time. I'm guessing, Ed, that you may have submitted a proposal. Not sure, but anyway, turnaround time for notification of award or otherwise.
Sure. Very fair question. And I know I have a few of those sitting in my inbox. So the short answer is that they should be notified, probably be notified in the beginning of next year in February, and probably awarded by March. We do have a new process this year that's actually going to speed up our review a lot, but we're implementing all the parts this year. So I'm a little hesitant to say it's going to be a lot faster, but yeah, the current proposals are currently in review, and you should hear early next year. If you're successful, you'll hear from our contracts office, because they're the ones that will basically get a contract set up with you.
And now that you mentioned contracts, April, are you a grants agency or a contracts agency, or both?
All contracts.
Contracts only.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. And Jayu's question is with regard to air and surface sterilizers for COVID-19. Is that a play for you guys?
Possibly. We did have that one Homeland Security topic this year that was related to virucidal coatings.
Right.
Again, we're still developing the topics for next year, so I don't know exactly what they are. But again, if it kind of aligns with a Homeland Security decontamination approach, it could be a topic in that area.
Okay. And Pamela's question is with regard to OTAs, other transactional authority agreements. Do you participate in those at all? I frankly am not overly familiar with them.
I cannot say that I am overly familiar either.
Okay.
So I don't think we do, unless I'm not understanding what an OTA is.
Pamela, we'll definitely get back to you on that. Great. So I was interested, you had mentioned TABA, and of great interest to most applicants are phase 0 applicant assistance programs, commercialization readiness programs, you know them all, and TABA as well. Could you go into further detail on what those programs are all about, and which ones? You mentioned TABA, so the answer is yes there, but which ones you offer or participate in?
Sure. I'll start with TABA. I don't know. I call it TABA, but
I have no idea if I'm pronouncing it.
Potato. I say potato.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, technical and business assistance. For those of you that don't speak SBIR, it's basically a way to provide commercialization assistance to awardees. And it has looked a certain way for a long time. And there was recent SBIR legislation that changed that. So make sure you look into it. it greatly increased the amount of support that we can provide in phase 2, which of course, if you're a larger agency, is great. If you're smaller agencies, it's really hard to figure out how you're going to pay for that along with everything else. But for us, what we're doing, and we're just implementing it right now with this round of phase 1s, we'll provide support to all phase 1s. It's $6,500. It'll be in addition to your award. So you basically get help from an outside contractor of our choosing in this case, but they'll help you. They have kind of like a set process that they use, but if you already used them before, they will work with you to kind of tailor something that's more useful. So we're providing that in addition to the phase 1. For our phase 2, we're going to provide access to all those TABA services, but you're going to propose your own vendor, and it's going to be part of the phase 2 award amount, because we simply can't afford to add $50,000 onto each phase 2 award, or else we'll have to cut down the number of awards we make. So, but they did change the phase 2 amount. It's increased a lot. So look, if other agencies, larger agencies, could be providing a lot of TABA support in phase 2. That's kind of all we participate in. I know there's some others out there. The one other thing we do for commercialization is what we call our phase 2 option, which I mentioned. It's kind of like NSF's phase 2B. And if you get a phase 2 award and you can bring in third-party investment of $100,000 or more, we'll match $100,000. So we're really trying to incentivize you finding third-party investment. It could be a traditional VC or an angel, or it could be state funding. We try to work with you to make it work, but you're bringing in money that you need to help you commercialize, and we're going to supplement some of that with an increased phase 2 amount.
So April, is that the same thing as the commercialization option that I think the $100,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the matching fund there for that.
It's matching funds, right, for phase 2. Yeah.
Okay. Is there also a phase 2B for continuation of research and so forth? I know that there are at least a couple of agencies that may also offer, and NSF is one of them, but may not be the only one, that may offer additional matching funds if, say, a corporate partnership comes about for continuation of research or anything like that. Is that something that you would?
We just have that phase 2 option. Now the phase 2 option gives you the extra money, and we can add another year to your project if you want. Mm-hmm. I know other agencies also can do second phase 2s, and like there's a lot of other additions that agencies can do. Unfortunately, we don't always participate because we just don't have the bandwidth, but really the option is the one supplement to phase 2 that we offer.
Got it. And Milan has a question with regard to engine technologies that address the air quality and efficiency issue. Have you had a topic relative to that, engine technologies again, or can it be a topic in the future? Yeah, I was just going to say, and if not you, who may be others?
Right. We've definitely had mobile source topics in the past. So air quality from mobile sources. Maybe 2 years ago, it's been a little while, but that is part of our mission, and it's possible that we will have one next year. Again, I'd urge folks to just reach out to me with a short description of the technology. I can try to give you some feedback now, and I can also probably provide better feedback as we get closer to our next solicitation. But as that person may know, like we have a lab in Ann Arbor that does all of the mobile source, sets all the fuel efficiency standards for cars, and does all those kind of things. And we also have a lab in RTP, North Carolina, that works on air quality. So certainly that aligns with our mission, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. And April, you had mentioned that it's not a bad idea to send you a one-pager, an executive summary or a fast facts or something like that. No tomes, no Encyclopedia Britannicas or anything like that. Do you have a template? I know that the DOE or may have or did have kind of like a template, but is there any particular information that you especially need on that single pager?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't have a formal template. I am really just checking to see if it aligns with our topic areas. Mm-hmm. We also, as I mentioned, we're EPA, so we get excited if there's a lot of environmental impact. So the more, like, if you can just tell us what you perceive the potential environmental impact to be, that would certainly be something of interest to us. And I would say, definitely before you submit a proposal anywhere, please check in with the program manager to make sure, you don't want to spend a lot of time preparing a proposal that doesn't align with what they want. So, again, you're in a good situation here where you've got an organization that's setting up one-on-ones with you, and I encourage you to take advantage of that.
So letters of endorsement, yay or nay? Good idea, bad idea?
Oh, definitely a good idea. Again, we're, as you saw from the evaluation criteria, we're weighing the commercial merit as much as the technical merit, even in phase one. Mm-hmm. So we love to see third party, that you've reached out to third parties already. Now, sometimes if you attach 3 and they all say the same thing and it looks like you wrote them and signed them, then, they're going to go down in value. But if they can really say something of meaning, like, yes, we intend to purchase this product if this is proved out in phase one, or we will demonstrate this if successful, something that's really tangible and adds value, then definitely a big plus for the commercial evaluation.
Got it. So no commitment necessary, but if milestones are achieved or deliverables are accomplished and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, commitments are better, but we do understand at phase one, sometimes you're just trying to get started, and I don't want to overwhelm people with what they have to submit. But to me, I think you have to have a partner to commercialize. Like, our measly investment is not going to be enough for you to get it to market. So you've got to work on how else you're going to get that technology out there.
So that being noted, not only from customers or prospective customers, maybe from the investment community or possibly a corporate partner.
Sure.
Those may be good letters of support or endorsement as well, I would imagine.
I mean, anyone that shows an end use might be the best, but sometimes it might be like, oh, we would manufacture this, something that kind of fits with the story that you're telling in your proposal. Like, sometimes they'll make a big claim that we're going to work with so-and-so, and then there's no letter to support that. And I think, you kind of think of yourself as a reviewer, and you're trying to paint a picture, and you like to see that the pieces fit together and that you've got support and you've done your homework.
Got it. And Gustavo, welcome back. And so he has an interesting question that has been asked, presented to Misty and yours truly here many times. So interested in your take. Integration of existing technologies to provide a new service. Now, there have been many of you and your colleagues, I think, have offered pretty specific definitions of what is innovation and what is not considered innovation. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, we love to debate what innovation is. And I do think, like, in an ideal world, we ask for disruptive technologies. We want everything to be a game changer. But I think in reality, we end up funding a range in our portfolio that's maybe more incremental on one end and then all the way to game changer on another. I personally think that integration can be innovation if you're taking existing parts and making something that's novel. I think you just have to make the case for it. I think you have to say how you're still going to be able to protect the intellectual property. But I think you can make the case that maybe it's more practical or smarter to take existing, components and not totally reinvent it. So I do think there's a place in our portfolio for integration.
So, Gustavo, your innovation may possibly be not in the existing technologies themselves, but I think what I'm reading in your question is that your innovation may be transformative in the form of how exactly those technologies are deployed. Is that, hopefully I'm interpreting that correctly. So can deployment of existing technologies be innovative, or is there a possibility there, April?
So maybe, is it like I have an existing technology and I'm going to deploy it towards another application, kind of like maybe
or maybe I've come up with a way to deploy it more productively, more cost effectively, more friendlier, safer for us and the environment and so forth. And I'm just planting words in Gustavo, so I don't know if I'm representing you fairly or not, but you get the drift. He's coming up with what may possibly be a means to deliver technologies, but in a more cost-effective and a more impactful for the environment.
I think so. Again, I think as long as it fits into our topic areas, I think we've had plenty of applications or technologies where they used to treat, I don't know, some contaminant in water. Now they're going to try it on this other contaminant in soil. That's fine with us. We need new ways to solve that problem that we've outlined in the solicitation. So I think it can be an existing technology with a new application or new deployment. Again, you just have to show that it's, sort of demonstrate its innovativeness, like how is this innovative? How does it compare to existing technologies, et cetera, the other things that we ask in the commercial sections.
Got it. And here's another question that is asked to me quite often, and that is, do I need to have any prior research? Do I need to have any data that I have already generated? Precursor work, is that required, or is it viewed favorably?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I get that one a lot too. And I don't think we specifically say you have to have data, but you have to have something that will show us that you believe the phase 1 will work. Why do you think this will work? And it's got to be definitely more than a literature review. We don't expect you to have a prototype already, but it's got to be somewhere in between there. So to me, it's pretty hard not to have some data, like some benchtop data, something data that will show, like, this is why I think it's going to work, and this is what I'm going to do for phase 1 to try to prove that out. But again, I guess, your proposal is a story and it's a snapshot, and you're making the case for your technology, and so you have to convince the reviewers of why you think it's going to work.
Got it. Thanks, April. And Jayu has an interesting question that I actually had experienced with a client many years ago here in Carlsbad with regard to copper surfacing in hospital intensive care units and so forth. And this particular company actually had to receive EPA authorization or clearance in order to enter into the market. So that being said, Jayu's question is, do air and surface sterilizers need to be approved by EPA before they can be put into the market? So he or she is not talking about the grant per se, but whether or not there are other protocols that need to be met.
Yeah, totally understand. And that can be hugely impactful for trying to commercialize that type of technology. And that said, I am not the definitive word. I know a lot about EPA-SBIR, cannot always speak for what needs to be registered or cleared, but it is typically, I know pesticides obviously have to be registered, and I do believe that almost any disinfectant needs some kind of registration. I am not the expert in that area, but I can certainly help you try to navigate that if you want to reach out to me. But I do believe if you're killing something with your product intentionally, then I think you need to get some type of EPA registration.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, April. And so I may need your help in interpreting Milan's question here, but I think I may be close to doing it fairly correctly. So his interpretation is SBIR's, the focus is on manufacturing a product. So he sees a gap in reaching innovation by not engaging inventors who may have a B2B licensing business model. He references Army's X-Tech Search had a competition approach which demonstrated technologies with lowered admin and manufacturing barriers. So he's suggesting that this might be something for EPA to consider as an approach. Any thoughts on that? First of all, did I represent that correctly, or did I come across clear as mud, I guess?
Well, is that question in the chat by any chance?
It is. If you can get on Q&A.
Oh, Q&A. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, click on that and take a peek
Uh-huh.
at it and see if you can interpret it better than me.
A business-to-business licensing business model. I mean, I have to say, we do not care how you commercialize. there's a lot of different trajectories for how technologies get commercialized. So we do not really care that. We want the technology dispersed and utilized so that it has environmental impact. So I don't know if I'm totally answering the question, but I would say that we're kind of agnostic on how you get it out there and make money, as long as you do it a way that works for your business. We just want it out there and utilized so that we can realize the environmental gains that we're hoping for.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So Milan, the interest is on innovative and transformative technologies and so forth, but included in your commercialization plan is your market delivery model, your revenue model, and so forth. And if you choose to, and of course, anyone who in the audience who is involved in the life sciences, licensing is of course a frequently deployed business model. So if that is part of your commercialization plan, and if it makes the most sense, great, or there may be a hybrid of that. But I think with regard to the EPA, it's a transformative innovation that I would imagine, April, that is of greater interest to you in this case.
Yep. The innovation and the impact. So yeah, how you get it out there, I really feel like is sort of a business decision. So.
Got it. Is there any distinguishing characteristic, April, with regard to how we prepare for and submit applications to the EPA as opposed to other agencies? Is there anything unique about you folks that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of say it over and over in different ways, but I do think for us, again, small programs. So we really want your technology, your proposal to be responsive to our topics, and our topics do change from year to year. So I do think it's great if you can reach out to me ahead of time and sort of make sure that alignment is there. You know, we use a system called FedConnect. It's basically a portal for submitting proposals. I have mentioned before, it's not my favorite. It's kind of a clunky government system, but just kind of like anything, don't wait to the last minute. I mean, I don't know how many proposals we had submitted, like 5 minutes, 30 minutes after the due date this year. And we just can't accept those. Our contracting officer will not. So I love the program. It's great. It's got so many benefits, but it is the government. So you have to kind of get all your ducks in a row. You have several registrations that you have to do for any agency. But for us, you need this small business. You have to register with the SBA. You have to have your DUNS. You have to have your SAM to do contracting business with us. And then you have to register with FedConnect. I think SAM's is pretty time consuming. I don't think the other ones are too time consuming, but if you don't have them and you go to apply, you can't use FedConnect. And so it's terribly frustrating, and I feel for you, but again, it's the government. So I would just encourage folks to do their homework, start early, get all those T's crossed and I's dotted, make sure it's a good fit. And that's kind of well, and the other thing I always love to say too, and this is kind of for anything, but make your proposal readable and compelling. Like sometimes I'm sitting in peer review panels and reviewers are like, I just can't quite figure out what they're trying to say, or I think they meant this, or I think it's going to do this, but tell a good story. Have someone else read your proposal and see if it makes sense to them, and are you conveying the excitement and the impact and your well thought out plans in a way that reviewers are going to understand.
Got it.
Yeah, I just threw a bunch of advice in there. So.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So Jim has an interesting question about crossbreeding between departments. For example, a tech developed for the Department of Transportation that reduces pollution on the road surface. Would that be of interest for further development through funds by way of the EPA? Do you ever partner with another agency to fund an initiative?
We don't typically partner. We do try to stay aware of what other agencies are doing. But we could very well have like a similar technology that addresses a DOT issue and then addresses like a runoff issue for us, or a materials issue for road surfaces. Again, like EPA will be the only one that really focuses on the environmental component, and probably for DOT, you'd be really focusing on the transportation component. But certainly there's crossover, and there's certainly companies that get funding from different agencies for similar technologies. The cardinal rule is you just can't get funded for the exact same work. That's double dipping and very bad. So don't do that. But you can certainly tailor it to different needs. Some agencies, we don't, again, because we're small, but some agencies will fund another agency's phase 1 project and give them a phase 2. So that's a possibility. You have to do a little homework to figure out what agency might want to pick up your phase 1, but that's another way to further funding from a different agency.
Okay, so this brings another question, mine to follow up on Jim's. What about foundations? And the reason why I asked that is that we had a client a few years ago that had received phase 1 and phase 2 funding, a different arena for diabetes. And so the NIH had agreed to some form of a partnership with the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation to tackle certain areas. Does the EPA work in any way with, and you may have answered this in a way by way of your matching program, but does the EPA work with maybe foundations or other organizations rather than agencies?
Not so much. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of foundations that have similar missions to us, but we don't really, we develop the topics internally, mostly like our priorities. We get those from internal feedback and we review internally. We would welcome, if you got funding from a foundation as a matching, we would welcome that for the option. But we personally, as a program, don't work that closely with foundations.
Got it.
Yeah.
So great, thanks. That clarifies it.
Okay.
We get asked that question a lot, April, by the way, for a variety of agencies. So Ed is asking about the EPA challenge, participation and receiving a prize award. If he were to win an EPA challenge award, does that preclude him from submitting the same topic or the same proposed project under the auspices of SBIR phase 1? Are there any issues there?
No, it does not. And I'll just say, I don't know if folks are familiar, but a lot of agencies, and EPA is one of them, are using this prize ability, to put out these challenges. So they're often sort of technology based and kind of align with SBIR topics, but it's just like everybody submits their idea and we pick the best ones and you win the prize. You've got the best solution to this problem. No, we would welcome any challenge winners to apply for SBIR phase 1. I actually think that would be a success story, to think that we could take it maybe from a prize competition to SBIR and maybe keep it going down the commercialization trajectory. I know we've had some prize competitions like in the area of wildfire smoke sensors. That's just a huge issue for California. We've got some that just went out on fertilizers. I should have a slide on them, actually. We have one on the PFAS issue. So different high priority areas that SBIR focuses on sometimes become a challenge. So that's a good question, actually.
Yep. Terrific. And one question from Amit. And Amit, I think your question may be a little bit too generic, but I'll toss it out to you anyway, April. Amit was just simply asking, we've got a water technology company, so can we get an SBIR grant or funding? Now, that I don't think there's near enough information to merit a yay or nay on that thing, but I do know that you have special interest in water technologies anyway.
Yeah. Definitely one of our core areas, water technology. So treatment monitoring. So you certainly could let us know, see what the topics are. But yeah, that's a core mission area of EPA. You just have to know more about your technology to see if it's a fit.
Terrific. April, we've exhausted 50 minutes. I can't believe it. It went really fast. So what else is new? If I recall, when you came to see us a few months ago, it also went into a full-on sprint. That hour just disappeared entirely.
So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, there's a heck of a lot. So evidence again of a great deal of interest, and I hope that we addressed everybody's questions. So I know you need to flip over to your one-on-ones. So I thought for those reasons, if nothing else, that we would release you and get you all set up for that. And Misty, I think you've shown up, so I think you probably wanted to share some information as well.
No, just let everyone know we'll be back at 11 a.m. with our next presentation.
And that will be with the Army Research Lab and Army Research Office. Very interesting. So April, it's been terrific.
Thanks, April.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We'll see everybody in 9 minutes, 11 o'clock. Take care.